He just got shot right here and he's on fire with his left wing. Like we talked about, like you're flying at potentially 150 to 500 knots. When you hit the end of the catapult and it's not dragging you along anymore, you're actually like thrown forward a little bit.
What's going on, Gamologists? Welcome back to Experts React. My name is Cameron Fath. I'm a former Army Ranger at a 2nd Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis, Washington. And joining me today is...
Hi, this is David Gregor, call sign Bronzino. Currently a naval aviator at Edwards Air Force Base, flying the F-35C Lightning II.
Awesome. And today we're going to be reacting to Call of Duty Vanguard, a plane mission. So you should have some fun with that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, folks. But before we get started with this reaction, we want to let you know about Gamology's brand new channel, Gamology Forecast.
This is their new page for all things gaming, teaching you everything you need to know in the world of video games.
Having fun while learning new things?
Jam-packed content with not seen before in Gamology. You'll find plenty of insane videos like
tips, tricks, and hacks for that one game that you've been totally struggling on.
Top 10 videos.
Discovery compilations of new or hidden gems.
Reviews of newly released games, and more.
Also, don't forget to check out Gamology's other channels.
Send noobs for your fill of virtual reality and even free games should absolutely check out yourself, as well as Gamology Short, which are full of all the short but sweet video games you could ever want.
So there are 3 potentially new channels for you guys to go check out after you finish with this video.
Make sure to check out the links in the description below.
Midway, 1942.
Way to talk himself out of worse situations.
You ever float?
Float?
Yeah. Term where you're on the, I don't know, I'm not a Marine, okay?
Have I ever gone like on cruise?
Yeah, have you ever gone on a cruise?
Yeah.
Oh, Navy, Marine terms are different.
Yeah, so like when we talk about cruise, it's not like a cruise ship where it's like a fun experience. It's a cruise for us is a deployment. So
Yeah,
like,
it's just a bunch of seamen in a
Yeah.
small, tight compartment.
it's about 5,000 of us on we actually call it a boat and not a ship, but a ship that's about the length of a cruise ship. Unlike a cruise ship where they want repeat customers, so they kind of cater to a customer. The aircraft carrier is made for war and everything else comes secondary. So while it's a fun experience, the flying aspect of it, the living conditions are not the best.
That's why I joined the Army, because I hate the water. I'm not an ocean fan. I don't have gills. I don't have webs on my fingers. I'm like, I don't belong in the ocean.
Well,
It's
the
scary.
The ship is so big that unless if you're in like the Pacific with huge swells, you're not gonna get seasick.
Okay.
So it's relatively stable, especially if you're like in the Atlantic or out in the Persian Gulf.
Okay, that's good to know. Still, the Army life is for me.
This is like completely badass compared to flight operations on a normal aircraft carrier are super cool, but nothing like this where there's planes starting up.
Are they usually that jam-packed on the deck?
So when they're parked, they'll be jam-packed. You have limited amount of space to fit fighters. You'll have kilos you have to fit on board, and you'll have our E2s or our CODs, or kind of our fixed-wing larger planes that have a radar on top, or our cargo planes to get mail stuff on board. When you're launching, it's like a delicate orchestra of taxiing around the aircraft, and sometimes you'll have just feet of separation between like wingtips as you're taxiing around so you don't hit each other.
I've never been on a ship. I don't have a lot of exposure to naval operations as far as just like landing and taking off those carriers. I mean, I know people that have, you know, grandfathers that have fought in World War II, and they said, or even just pilots in the family, and they're like, the hardest thing they've ever had to do is land on one of those carriers at nighttime.
It is absolutely like one of the most fun things and coolest things I will have ever done. And the daytime ones are actually like a ton of fun.
Really?
They've released new software in the aircraft. When I was on deployment, you could manually, or usually you would manually fly the aircraft like stick throttle with your hands. Even a good night landing still is a little unsettling. With the newer software they have, it's actually kind of benign. They'll offer us like times when we're getting ready for deployment, or when a carrier comes out of the yards and we're just recertifying it, that hey, if you want to go up and get some more landings at night, like go ahead. And usually everybody's like, absolutely not. Like, you know, I got my bare minimum, I'm done. I actually, after new software got released, I was like, you know what, send me off, I'll get a couple more landings at night. So,
Yeah, it's like, do the planes pretty much land themselves now with this software, or what?
they actually can. They could
great.
previously. They can actually,
Tesla jets or what, dude?
dude, I wish. Unfortunately, the software isn't that great, but they can actually couple up to the instrument landing system on the carrier, and it will actually manipulate your stick and throttle and land the plane itself.
Jesus. I mean,
Now-
comparing that to this.
Dude, I have no idea how they did it
Yeah.
back then, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have advanced instruments, heads-up display where all that information is presented. In 1942, I'm not even really sure how much of kind of night carrier ops they did.
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese got it down to a system. See, once they took off, they didn't have to land.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? I mean, the other thing they had was they didn't have like a catapult system. Our aircraft get hooked up to a catapult and we get shot off the front end, which is like a roller coaster ride times a million. These guys are literally just like doing a normal takeoff. Like,
oh yeah, just nuts.
they're on the brakes, they advance the throttle to military power or full power, and they ran the calculations, or they just hope that they are able to take off at the end.
Just fingers crossed. So what are they doing right here? Is this pretty accurate as far as just like pre-takeoff checks? Do you guys do like PCIs, PCCs? In the Army, we have like pre-combat checks, pre-combat inspection.
So we'll have a checklist that we're running through. So you'll taxi up to a catapult, you'll get hooked up, they'll put you in tension, so you're fully hooked up to the catapult, ready to go. You'll get a run-up signal, and then you'll advance your power to either military power, so you're full power without afterburner, or if you weigh a certain amount or you have an asymmetrical load on the aircraft and you need a little bit extra speed at the end of the catapult, you'll go to full afterburner, and then you'll do a full wipeout of your controls, make sure all your controls are working. You'll check your engine instruments, and then you'll check your flight control system, make sure you don't have any flight control degrades or failures. And then after that, during the daytime, you'll give a salute to the catapult officer, or at nighttime, you'll click on your lights, and that'll be the signal that, hey, I'm ready to take off, and then they'll push the button and off you go.
Damn, fucking nuts, dude.
You're no fun.
Like I said, a roller coaster ride times a million.
Yeah.
Even at like, again, daytime, absolutely, like, dude, I would do that over any roller coaster I've ever been on. In F-18, I've been in a 5-wet tanker, so we had 5 external fuel tanks that are fully loaded on the aircraft, and you're weighing about 6,000 pounds, and you're accelerated from a dead stop to the end of the catapult in about 2 seconds to about 160 knots, so maybe like 180 miles an hour. Dude, like, not only are you like thrown back in the seat, but sometimes it's so violent, you're actually like, you're bouncing up and down in the seat as you go down. And then the deceleration, even in full afterburner, when you hit the end of the catapult, it's not dragging you along anymore. You're actually like thrown forward a little bit just due to like you slammed on a brakes in the car on the highway.
Ah, damn, dude. That sounds like a ridiculous experience.
Dude, this is why I joined like the Navy. I saw like videos like Vietnam and stuff, but then doing like large alpha strikes with like large plane formations like this, pushing in as a large element. Nowadays, it's completely different wherein you can't even see your women most of the time. Unfortunately, our planes cost a lot more than what they did in 1942 as they're pumping them out through an assembly line. So we're not willing to accept kind of like the combat losses that
I'm sure that's
they're doing.
Millions of dollars worth of equipment that you can just, can go bye-bye in the blink of an eye.
Oh, and it's the same thing, like you have like a mishap or like a flight accident. I've heard stories of guys back then would have a plane crash and they'll be back flying the next day, where that happens to us. Even if you're not at fault and it's pretty apparent, you'll still go through, for us, what's called a FENIAP process. It's not that quick. For us, unfortunately, usually it's a month or 2 long process.
You're just not flying for 2 months.
Still getting paid. Who knows, like, you might get pulled off flight status, where 1942 at the World War going on, I mean, dude, they were trying to get back to flying.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fight. Good old-fashioned dog fight right here.
Even in training, it's the most fun training that we'll do is we call it BFM, so basic fighter maneuvering, or ACM, air combat maneuvering. To this day, we'll still train to employing the gun.
Are you guys ever doing live fire operations as far as from the cockpit, or is a lot of your like maneuvering training, or at least your dogfight training, is gonna be like under simulator pretty much?
So usually for dogfight, we're not doing anything in the simulator. It's just too hard to replicate. Picking up a lot of its visual cues on how another aircraft's maneuvering and how you're gonna maneuver your aircraft in kind of that time and space aspect. Or what we do is we'll enter into like a simulated mode for our weapon system. So you can still cue your radar, you can still cue your missiles, and you can still squeeze the trigger or press the pickle button to shoot a missile or to shoot the gun. And it'll give you cues of, hey, I took a valid shot, I didn't, and this missile is gonna impact the aircraft in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, it hit them. Or if you're putting the gun and you have a radar lock, it'll actually give you a kind of a cue in your heads-up display of where those bullets are going in time and space, if you're gonna hit that aircraft or not.
Kind of like a
video game.
Yeah, literally inside of a real jet, right? As you're flying.
We will do like live fire missile shoots, obviously not against each other, either with like a drone or we'll shoot flares if we have a AIM-9, a heat-seeking missile on board.
Yeah.
And then we'll do, in training, we'll shoot the gun at the ground. Obviously, we have bombing ranges. And then in the air, we'll have like Lear jets will tow banners, and we'll do like a banner shoot where you can deploy the gun in an air-to-air environment.
Looks like you're doing a little bit of a dive bomb here. You guys ever do that in training? Is that?
Yeah, dude. So we still do not so much in the F-35, but in the F-18, there were definitely dive deliveries, dropping Mark 82s, Mark 83s, 84s, 500,000 pound, 2,000 pound bombs. We do them maybe not as steep as they're doing it here, and we're traveling a lot faster than what they're doing. One of the times that we're most vulnerable in like a fighter jet is when we're down low, where we can shot at by artillery, or we can get shot at by like a manpad, like a portable shoulder-fired heat-seeking rocket. So we want to be in that low altitude environment for as little as possible. And when we're down there, we want to be as fast as possible. You know, when you have to lead a target for shooting, the faster that target's going, and the more
it's hard to
it's
lead.
moving,
You kidding me? Damn, this video game's going fucking nuts right now. I'm like trying to pay attention to what you're saying, but there's so much going on, and I'm just like,
I mean, dude, like this is like, I mean, obviously, like we're not like doing anything like this anymore. Just like the flak that's blowing up in the air. I mean, I can't even compare it to anything that I've done. Like when we do BFM or ACM, we'll actually train to, like I said, employing the gun. The kind of the opposite side is we'll train to, hey, if we're defensive and someone's kind of shooting at us, how are we going to defend from there? If you're flying kind of in an erratic maneuvering, it's harder for them to employ the gun. Like you're flying at potentially 150 to 500 knots. If you're trying to employ a gun on an aircraft that's maneuvering at the same speed, it's going to make it difficult. And as you maneuver both vertically and horizontally, kind of actually see this guy weaving, and just making it harder for you to solve the gun problem to hit the aircraft. The other thing is, it's not like a person like, hey, you get shot, and sure, you might get shot in somewhere that's not vital. It's still gonna hurt, like,
oh, hell yeah.
Right? Like, it's still gonna impact your performance. You might have one bullet that hits like a wing, and it might not do anything to the aircraft, right? Like, you'll try to sever like hydraulic lines or flight controls to the aircraft's not maneuvering. But honestly, what's the biggest thing is you want to kind of drag your gun just through the cockpit and literally just hit the person.
Take out the brains of the operation.
Right, exactly. You can put one bullet into the cockpit, hit the pilot, and they might be incapacitated. Airplane might be completely fine, but it's still not gonna, like, if you're not able to control it, it's not gonna be doing anything. Now, you can shoot the plane, and you can actually degrade its flight controls. It might be leaking oil or hydraulic fluid, but until it runs out of hydraulic fluid
you're still able to fly it.
Oil, and you not only can they fly it, they can still potentially employ weapons or shoot you back. So.
That's interesting, because I know, like, from an infantry standpoint, it's like every time we're engaging targets, we're taught, you know, center mass, always shoot center mass. Don't try to shoot penges. Don't go for headshots because it's a smaller target. That's very interesting how you guys actually go for the cockpit versus the plane itself. I mean, it's a smaller target, but once you hit that, it's kind of like the fucking T-zone here.
We don't really carry that many bullets.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because in the game here, you got an infinite amount of rounds in your gun here. I was gonna ask you, what's like a combat load on your plane?
I don't know how many bullets they were carrying in 1942, right? But that's all they had. Was all they had was the gun. So I'm sure they're carrying a bunch of bullets. We'll have actually like conservation mindset. So for a trigger squeeze, we'll have maybe about 5 seconds of trigger squeeze until you're out of bullets.
Oh my god. So much shit that I don't know about planes.
I mean, dude, it's like the other thing is like not only are you worried about getting like shot here from like the other plane, or you're trying to defend from there, like they're also shooting at you from the ground too, right? So
are you also worried about collision with friendlies and other planes as well?
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll do in training is we'll have a training bubble around the aircraft. If I'm going to emerge with an aircraft, we're kind of like flying at each other, and then we do like a high-speed pass. We can go in like 500-600 knots each, so you have 1,200 knots of closure. It happens very, very fast. So we'll have a training bubble, normally 500 feet, where we're not gonna get any closer than 500 feet within each other. For there. In combat, like there's no training bubble, right?
Yeah.
You want to get as close as possible, especially if you're trying to employ a gun. Like I'm sure you know, trying to shoot a target that's farther away, but if it's closer, it's easier to hit it if it's closer, right? So in training, when we employ the gun, we have a training bubble that's no closer than 500 feet. But if we were to employ the gun in combat versus enemy aircraft, you want to be as close as possible without worrying about fragging yourself with any kind of debris that is coming off the other aircraft.
Very interesting, man. The only time I'm ever in a plane is either if I'm gonna jump out of it or if it's, you know, carrying me overseas or something. Primarily in Ranger Regiment, like we were working pretty much with rotary more than fixed wing. CH-47s, your Chinooks, and then your Blackhawks was like the most exposure I've had to being in the air.
Dude, I'd rather be up in the air, especially higher up in altitude. The higher you are, the faster you are, the less kind of threats you have. He just got shot right here and he's on fire with his left wing. Like we talked about, like, dude, you can take a bullet to the aircraft and potentially like where it hits, it might not hit something that's vital. So yeah, you might have slight damage and you're able to press on to the target. Depending on the mission, we'll have a risk level. You might have something where, hey, you're low risk, so you're not willing to press into like a scenario like this. Or you might have something on the opposite side of the spectrum that an extreme risk level where like the mission is #1 priority and you're willing to sacrifice yourself and your aircraft, and we'll train to that. We'll do something that's called a defensive counter air. So you're trying to protect an enemy or an asset. For us, it's usually the aircraft carrier. So we're getting attacked, something like in Midway, where I'm not sure right now if they are trying to attack the Japanese fleet or if they're protecting like the US carrier. But we'll have something where we kind of have, as enemy aircraft are getting closer to us, like we are literally willing to sacrifice like ourselves in that aircraft to kill an aircraft that has like an anti-ship cruise missile, where there might be another enemy aircraft shooting a missile at us. We're willing to accept like, hey, I need to kill the guy that has the cruise ship missile, where they can kill like my friends on the boat, and I know I'm gonna take
sacrifice one, save 1,000, essentially.
It's for the greater good.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is like a 90-degree dive. So
How are
like,
the G's on that?
It's not, so when you're actually in the dive, it's actually, you're pulling less than 1G because you're trying to push the nose forward because the airplane wants to, not necessarily fly up, but it wants to just be like 1G, like what we're currently sitting at. So it's gonna kind of seek that kind of state. So you actually have to kind of push the nose over a bunch. And so you might be, not necessarily negative G, but you might be 0.5G. Like, you know, you're kind of almost kind of floating in the seat. But then once you need to pull out of that dive,
Let's go!
obviously the steeper the dive, the easier it is to hit a target. Like
Yeah.
you're just dropping it straight down, but it's kind of, you know, trying to throw the bomb out and hoping it goes in the right time and spot.
A lot of information you got there. You are a wealth of knowledge, my friend.
I mean, Midway 1942, like that replay, I mean, that is stuff that I wish I could do. That is
Oh, that's
so
the pinnacle,
cool,
man.
right?
I have such a deep respect for World War II veterans, Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, because they did so much more with way less. Like the technology aspect that we have today, as far as the post GWAT and during GWAT, it's like we had all those dudes. It was all skill.
I mean, it's just like the courage. Like, I mean, you're taking off and you have the lack of technology, but then like just the, how you're getting shot at and like the combat losses that you were taking back then to now, it's just
huge.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Go ahead, comment, like, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to find more videos like this, go ahead and check out Gamology on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to see more from me, go ahead and check out the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast or my streetwear brand KitGod at KitGod Apparel on Instagram.
And if you want to check more stuff out about me, you can check me out on Instagram at DMGREGR. Thanks.
Yeah, Sebastian, put that in the bloopers, man. This real screw me over. What's going on, Gamologists? Welcome back to Experts React. My name is Cameron Fath, and with me today is Gamology's crazy new Gamology.